We're going to insert our sleeve now. We're going to insert it flat with a flat felled seam on the inside. So what I recommend doing is running a row of stitching 1/4 inch or 5mm along the sleeve head, which we're going to use as a pressing guide later. Okay, so I've done that. Okay, so here is the body of my shirt. Here's the front and the back. Okay, this is the right side up. We're going to set our sleeve in flat. Now, it's important to remember that the placket goes to the back. So this is right sides up, the placket's at the front here. If we do that, then the opening to the cuff, the placket, will be on the front of our arm, and that looks weird. So the placket is going to be at the back. This is the back of the shirt. To double check that, you have 2 notches in your sleeve here, which will match up with a double notch at the back here. We are going to put the sleeve and the shirt right sides together, and we're going to match our notches. So there's a notch in about the middle of the sleeve head, which will correspond to this shoulder seam here. We'll match that. There's a notch at the front of the armhole and at the front of the sleeve. We will match that notch. And then there's our double notch here, back of the sleeve, and we'll match that one. Now, hopefully you will have already sewn your flat felled seam sample. So you should know what to do, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So we're going to sew this right sides together because we're going to do the flat felled seam. So just one row of stitching is going to be visible on the outside. We're going to sew this one in this particular pattern. It's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but your pattern may vary. So I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to press. Okay, so I sewed that seam. Let's turn over to the wrong side. So here's the wrong side of the back. Okay, I'm going to flip our sleeve out. This is the wrong side. And remember, with a flat felled seam, we're going to fold this over to enclose the seam allowances. But first we need to trim away some of this layer. So this is not the part that we stay stitched. This is not on the sleeve head. This is part of the body of the garment. So we're going to trim it away because it's going to fold over the top there. So when you're trimming it, you're going to trim in line with that row of stitching that you sewed, that guideline. All the way along. Make sure you're not trimming any of that sleeve. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my iron and I'm going to press this over using that stitching line as a guide, and then we'll flip it back over so it will look like that. Okay, so I folded that over neatly and then pressed it to this side. This is the body side of the shirt, and we're going to pin stitch this down. This is what the outside of the shirt looks like at this point. There's a neat seam and we're going to have another line of stitching here. Make sure that seam is perfectly open when you're sewing it and it's not like tucked over like this. And that's how you... Okay, so from the inside, you have your flat felled seam. This is the original stitching line and this is the second one you sewed. And on the outside, you have that seam line and then that second row of stitching for a clean finish inside and out. Okay, we are looking good. We have something that looks a lot like a shirt now, but it doesn't have any side seams. So we've got the sleeve sewn on, but there is no underarm seam. So we're going to sew this in one pass from the wrist all the way down through the armpit to the hem at the bottom. And you can sew this either using a flat felled seam or a French seam, just in the usual way. So French seams are going to be easier than a flat felled seam. Remember, if you're going to do either one, you're going to start off with the wrong sides together. So have the shirt with the right sides on the inside, just like you were going to put it on, and then sew it wrong sides together. So right sides out with your first pass, then turn it through and do your second pass, or do your flat felling, whichever you prefer. So that's how that goes for that one. And yes, then you can move on to doing the cuffs.